Hi, this is Clay Green with Picture Window Software, and this is Lesson 2, Basic Call Handling for the TeleConnect application. And what we'd like to do in this lesson is just simply show you a couple of call scenarios and how the receptionist will typically handle those calls. The first thing that's going to happen when you launch TeleConnect is that the console is going to be placed into a busy mode. So I just want to point that out right here. You're going to see busy show up right here in the middle of the call control panel. And to change that to idle so that you can answer calls, you're going to simply click on the busy button, the busy indicator, and it will prompt you if you want to toggle to idle mode. You'll say yes, and you'll be ready to answer calls. So what I'd like to do now is just place a call. And this is a lab environment, so we're simulating that this is a call coming in from the outside. I'm going to go ahead and answer that call by pressing the loop key. I'm going to ask the caller who they'd like to speak to. Let's just say, for example, they want to talk with Ken Tapp. Now, the cursor is placed automatically. TeleConnect does this automatically for you. It places the cursor in the first search field, last name. And if you notice, that lines up with the first field in your directory, in your database on the left. And as you go down, you'll notice that you're going across from left to right. There's the first name field, employee ID, and so on. Now, TeleConnect will work with almost any database out there through Microsoft's ODBC standard, open database connectivity. So the fields that you see may not be identical to the fields that I have. This is a canned database that we ship with TeleConnect. Your database may be something that was already set up in your system that you've used for other directories, internal employee directories, and TeleConnect can link to that. So you may have different fields. You may have more fields. You may have less. They may have different names. All right, so I'm going to assume there's going to be a last name, a first name field, or some sort of name field that you can search by. So when you answer the call, the cursor is automatically placed in that topmost search field, and you're ready to type. I'm going to search for Ken Tapp. That's who my caller wants, T-A. And notice as I type, let me go back, as I type each letter, the list at the top is filtered. I put a T in. Now only those employees whose last names start with T show up. A, now just those that start with T-A, P. And by the time you've typed in the third or fourth letter in the name, it will typically have found the person, unless there's a lot of, Smiths and Jones and things like that. For most names, 3, 4 letters, it's going to find that person's name and automatically have it selected. I didn't have to click this. The little cursor shows up there, and it's highlighted with a white background simply because it's the only person in my database of about 10,000 whose last name starts with TAP. Actually, this database, I think, has 2,000 or 3,000 in it. So one of the nice features, it's an option that can be turned on, disabled, or enabled in TeleConnect, is a feature that allows you to hit enter when you have typed in your search and it's automatically highlighting the person you want. You can hit enter to transfer to that person or to call that person if you were originating a call. So right now I'm going to hit enter. You're going to hear ringing. Ken Tapp's line's ringing right now. And I'm going to explain these icons in just a minute. Let me go ahead and answer that call so we don't continue to hear Ken's line ring. There are 3 indicators, 3 icons that each represent a different person in the call. This represents me. This shows that I'm active on this call. This icon represented my original caller, the person who started this conversation who wants to speak with Ken Tapp. And then Ken is the icon on the right. All right, so each one of those has meaning. And it gives you an indication of whether the person you're transferring to has answered the phone or not. And I'll point that out in the next call. You'll see that those icons will actually flash when the line's ringing. Actually, Ken's did right before we answered this. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask Ken if he can take this call. Kenny, I have a call from John Smith for you. Can you take that call? If Ken says yes, I simply hit release. And what happens is it releases me out of the call, but it connects Kenny with the caller. John Smith. Up until that point in time, John was in a hold state, waiting for me to announce the call to Kenny. And at the end of that, when Kenny says, yes, I can take the call, I hit release, and that person is connected with Kenny. I am the only one that's actually released out of the call, the receptionist. The other two parties are brought together and joined in the call. All right, now, there are two types of transfers that you may be doing. Some companies do what I just demonstrated, which is called a guided or announced transfer. What that simply means is that when I have a caller for an employee, I'm going to ring that employee, announce the call to them, and then connect them if the employee can take the call or not. Now, obviously, that takes extra time. So not every business does that. I would have to say more companies don't do that than do that. They don't use the guided transfers. So the other type of transfer is called a blind transfer, and I will show you that last. I have to change an option in the system to enable blind transfers, and you'll see that in action at the very end of this lesson. All right, so you saw a call come in for Ken. I announced it. I connected it. I was out of the call, available to take another call. Let's run through that again very quickly without all the explanations, so you can see it's quite fast. It doesn't take very long to do this. The system is doing the transfer. I don't have to push the buttons to dial the call. It goes pretty quickly. So let's run that call again. Here comes the call. I answer it. I type TAP. I see Ken is highlighted. I hit enter. It rings Ken's line. He answers. Hey, Kenny, I have a call from John Smith for you. Can you take the call? Kenny says, yes, I can take that call. I hit release, and those two are connected. I'm out of the call that quick. All right. Now, what if Kenny was going into a meeting and couldn't take that call? Let's run that scenario through. Let me make another call now. Here comes our call. I'm going to go ahead and hit the loop key to answer. I'm going to type TAP just like before. I'm going to hit enter. Ken is going to pick up if he's there. If not, it's just going to ring. Kenny, I've got a call from John Smith. Can you take the call? No, I'm going into a meeting. Can you give him my voicemail? Sure. How do I get rid of Kenny from this connection now? All right, Kenny is referred to as the destination party. The caller, and I'm pointing to the caller's icon, is referred to as the source party. So I want to drop Kenny, the destination party, off. There is a release destination button that does that. I'm going to click it. Kenny disappears from the call. I'm reconnected with my caller who'd been in a hold state while I announced the call to Kenny. I'm now reconnected to him automatically, and I can offer that person voicemail. Excuse me, Kenny's going into a meeting. Can I offer you his voicemail? Yes, that's fine. I go over and I click transfer to voicemail. I hear that the announcement for Kenny's voicemail's on. I hit release, and I've now connected that caller to Ken's voicemail. Now, you might have heard the beginning of Kenny's voicemail announcement when I started the transfer to voicemail. That allows me to know, oh, good, I've got the right mailbox. I didn't mess up and click the wrong thing. It's going into the right person's mailbox. When I click release, the system that we're on is a Cisco Unified Communications Manager version 10.5 system. When I hit release to connect that caller to Kenny's mailbox, it will actually start that recording from the beginning, which is really nice because it allows me, the receptionist, to listen to a little bit of his greeting. When I click release and connect the caller, they get to hear that entire announcement from the beginning again. It doesn't cut them through halfway through his greeting. So a very nice little feature. Okay, now, those are the two scenarios that you're going to run into most often if you're doing guided transfers. Let's show blind transfers next. This is the last thing I want to show you because this is just basic call handling. I'm going to go into options and I'm going to change a feature. And normally you will not need to go into the screen. This is set up with the features that your business needs from the beginning. You typically don't have to change things, but we're going in here simply because we didn't have the blind transfer option on. And the lookup features apply to this search panel on the main screen. That's your lookup area. So all of these features apply to that. The last one is, are we going to do blind transfers from the lookup box? And I'm going to say yes. I'm going to apply that, click OK. The software doesn't need to be restarted. It will take that new configuration change on the fly when you say apply. And let's run that same call scenario through. Here comes our call. Now I'm going to do one thing a little bit differently here. You may have noticed there's an answer button next to the loop key. I'm going to click the answer button to pick up that call. The reason I'm going to use answer, it's not necessary. You can click the loop key, but in a busy environment, the answer button might actually make more sense because you can answer a call, put it on hold, allowing the next call to come in, and hit answer to pick up that next call. I'm going to demonstrate that in our next lesson on advanced call handling. But basic call handling, you don't really need to know that. Know that the hold button's there. You can put that call on hold at any time. You'll notice that I have sort of dropped out of that call for a minute. I'm not active on it anymore. My icon disappeared, and the icon that represents my caller goes gray. They're in a hold state right now. If I want to come back to that call, I can click the loop key, or I could have clicked hold again. One other thing I should mention while I'm talking about the call processing keys over here, the call control keys, is there's a function key also assigned for each one of these. And it can really be any key on the keyboard, but by default, F1 is answer, F2 is hold, F3 is release, and F4 is release destination. Now, you can map function keys to any one of these, but those four are the most common ones you'll use if you like the keyboard. All right, so we want to show blind transfer. Let's get back to that. We picked up the call. I'm going to do the exact same thing, TAP. Well, I don't need to put in this extra P. I'm just TAP, and there Kenny is. I want to transfer to Kenny. I'm going to hit enter, and watch what happens this time. The call is off my board. It transferred it that quickly. Now, you might hear Kenny's lines ringing. When he picks up the line, he's going to have John Smith. He's going to have the caller, not me. So a lot of businesses work that way. The receptionist doesn't do call screening and announcing for the employees. They pretty much have to pick up the call, figure out who it is for themselves, and handle the call. All I'm going to do is transfer it to them. So I almost act like an auto attendant where someone doesn't know the extension of a person, I connect them with that party. I don't do any call screening if blind transfer is set up. Now, one of the things you should know too is that TeleConnect can have blind transfer assigned, for example, from transfers done through the lookup area, but not blind transfers if you transfer using other methods. Now, we have a number of methods that you can use to make a call. I'm going to go ahead and hit release. One of the ways that you can make a call or transfer call is by double-clicking on the person's extension. Here's the extension field for Gary Adams. I can double-click this, and I'm now calling 1013. All right, let me hit release. Okay. Another thing I could do is I could highlight Gary Adams, actually double-click Gary Adams on his name, and it will transfer to his extension as well. Let me show you one other thing. I can go to Gary Adams. I can go down here. This panel right now is set for numbers. There are three things that you can push at the top that change the way that panel works. By default, it's set for numbers. If I double-click this icon, it's going to dial the highlighted person's extension. If I double-click their phone, it's going to originate or transfer a call to the current person's phone number. I'm going to go back to Gary Adams. Now, this number, I don't really have outgoing trunks in my system to make an outgoing call, but if I double-click phone, it would try to dial that number, and we're probably going to get a recording that says it can't. Yeah, I'm hearing your call cannot be completed as dialed. Okay, and you can also do the same thing. Highlight Gary, double-click cell phone, and if he had a cell phone set up, it would transfer to that number. All right, so number of ways that you can make a call with the system. I think that's where we're going to stop for this lesson. That's basic call handling. Notice one of the things that you cannot do, and you wouldn't need to do, with blind transfer setup, you really can't use the release destination key when transferring a call because the call just goes through. There's no need to ever release Kenny from the call because he's too busy and can't take the call at that time, going into a meeting or what have you. You might use it with voicemail transfers when you're set up for a blind transfer, but not when transferring to the employee. It would never be needed then. So it's basically just answering, look up, hitting enter. There's one other thing before we conclude this lesson that I want to cover, and that is, what if you know the extension number of the person that you want to dial so that I don't really need to look it up? Well, there's a feature called keyboard dialing. And you'll notice right now it shows keyboard dialing is in gray. That means it's not enabled. If I want to enable it, I can do one of two things. I can either hit the numlock key, which I just did, on the keyboard, and you'll see that keyboard dialing goes enabled. I'm going to hit numlock again. You'll see it'll go grayed out. Or I could really just click on the word keyboard dialing at the bottom, and it'll ask me, do you want to toggle it? Yes, and it will go active at that time. And you can also turn it off that way. All right, now, whoops, with keyboard dialing active, say yes again to it so it goes active, I can call anyone if I know their extension number. I'm going to call Ken Tapp. 1012 is his extension. I have it memorized. And I'm just going to, on my keyboard, hit 1012. Notice as soon as I hit 1, a little dialog box comes up. And you can see the numbers you put in. You can either click with the mouse on the button that says dial, or you can hit enter. And right now it's calling Ken Tapp. All right. Hit release on that. Now Kenny was busy, so that's why you didn't hear ringing. Let me go ahead and hang up that call. One of the previous calls we transferred was still active on his line. Let me go ahead and do that again. 1012. Okay. Oh, that's right. I've got it off hook, so that's why you're not hearing it. Okay, that makes sense now. All right, so let me hit release from that. And let's see what else. There was one other thing. Oh, I wanted to show you a transfer to Kenny's line doing a manual dial. So we're going to run another call in. We're going to answer that call. I'm going to manually just on my keyboard dial 1012 for Kenny because I know his number. 1012, hit enter, and notice that the call is ringing Ken's line. Kenny picks up. Kenny, I've got John Smith for you. Can you take the call? Yes, I can. I'm going to go ahead and hit the release button and connect them. Now, why didn't it do a blind transfer? The reason is because we didn't do it from the lookup area. The lookup area has the option to do the blind transfer. We didn't do it from the lookup. We did it by manually entering in the number. And it's going to do those as a regular guided transfer. So that's one way around it. If your system is set up for blind transfer and you know it, and you search for Ken Tapp, but you know that you need to speak with Kenny, don't hit enter to do it the blind transfer way. Go ahead and put in 1012 manually, and that will bypass the blind transfer. Okay? All right, this concludes Lesson 2, Basic Call Handling. In Lesson 3, we're going to go into advanced call handling, and there's some other ways that you can make calls and transfer calls that we'll go into at that time. All right, thank you very much.